Alright guys, hope you're all doing well today. So this week we got a rundown of all the lore, basically the story from the Division 1 through to the Division 2, basically preparing us for the narrative content coming with Episode 3, which is apparently meant to be substantial and also pave the way for Year 2 and beyond. So today I'm going to go over pretty much the narrative of the game as it was revealed on stream. My knowledge of the narrative itself isn't overly great, so I've basically written all of the notes about everything that happened. I'm going to go over that in today's video. Unfortunately, there is no real news, so to say. The Episode 3 has not been confirmed yet, although I do want to just briefly talk about in this video because I believe I know when it's going to be coming based on something they didn't actually talk about but was scrolling at the bottom of the state of the game. So let's just begin on this one. Okay, so as always, I'm going to go down the list of everything that I noted. And I'm going to start the video off with talking about Episode 3 release date and why I believe it's the 18th. So to start off with, Hamish was today joined with the narrative director, and this stream was basically about the recap of the Division and the Division 2 lore to get us ready for Episode 3. The first thing they went over was priority alerts. The maintenance yesterday was just a server maintenance, and there was really nothing further to add to that, although scrolling at the bottom of the stream it confirmed that Clan XP and projects had been fixed. But the one important thing that I saw was that Kenley College will not reopen now until the 25th of February. And that made me believe that actually it is going to be the 18th for Episode 3. It would make sense that Kenley College opens on the 25th because that would be the day that all of the narrative content and all of the stuff becomes available to everyone. Obviously, for Year 1 pass owners, they get 7 days early access to the narrative content. So it would make sense that that comes out on the 18th and then everything comes out on the 25th, which includes Kenley College. Although I will say they kind of alluded to the idea that it might come out next Tuesday, and the reason that might be the case is because they confirmed that they cannot confirm what they're going to be talking about in next week's State of the Game. I believe Yannick's going to be a part of it, but they said they cannot confirm what they're going to talk about. So the chances are that maybe it's next week because they're going to talk about Episode 3, which has already been released. Who knows? But I'm sticking with my guns. 18th of February is Year 1 pass owners. That's just what I believe. Now, what I'm going to do now is just go through all of my notes on the lore. If you're not up to speed with the lore, it's probably worth watching the rest of this video. If you are, it's up to you. You can listen to it if you want to, but you're probably not going to learn anything new. I learned quite a lot of new stuff here because I'm not up to speed with the lore, and actually I'm glad I got to hear this before going into Episode 3. So let's start. Now, the viral outbreak was in New York on Black Friday. And, you know, it spreads over the world easily. It was actually spread, it was a green poison and it was put on banknotes, essentially. So as you can imagine, you can just look at the coronavirus as of today, how easily this stuff spreads, especially when you've got planes and transport and all of that sort of stuff. These viruses, you know, they go global very quickly, and this spread very, very quickly. And the problem is society is sensitive to this stuff. So there's no way to really prepare for it. So everything started failing. When you've got a lot of people off work and stuff, then power, electricity, police, all of that stuff, it just starts to fail. And it's not post-apocalyptic, but it's what you would consider as mid-crisis. Now, who are you? In the Division 1, who are you? You're an agent of the Division. You signed up before the outbreak for that very reason. You're there so that if there is an outbreak, you will go and do what is necessary to try and stem that outbreak. But you are activated as part of the second wave. Now, the first wave that went out, it kind of didn't work, and it wasn't actually until you go to the police academy mission that you realise what actually happened to the first wave. Now, you're activated a couple of weeks after the incident. So when you go to the police academy mission, you learn that with the first wave, they basically got left in the dark zone to die, essentially, and you see an echo in the gym, okay? And what does that echo tell you? If you haven't played the Division 1, an echo is kind of like something that you click on and it tells you a story about what's happened there. It kind of relives what happened at that particular area, and it was the way the narrative was essentially told in the Division. Well, in this echo, you have Erin Keener, and he was part of a first wave agent. And he's basically taken out someone who sat on a chair as part of the same team. And the question in your head is, well, why is that? Well, at the boss of that particular police academy mission, so when you come towards the end of the police academy mission, a boss drops on a helicopter and you fight the boss. It is a first wave agent. It's nameless. I believe the actual code name is Scarecrow, but you don't actually know who it is. And what actually happens is you throw out your skill, they hack it, and that's how you know it's a first wave agent. So once this mission has ended, and I didn't actually see this myself, guys, so this is something I've missed from the original. If you go into the evidence tab, then you'll see a video. And I'm going to include that video in here so you guys can see where we're up to.
Can't believe the bullshit that went down in the dark zone at the end there.
I know. We had it. Everything I told them was dead on. They made us pull out anyway.
And we left our dead behind.
Yeah, we're not supposed to do that. Hang on a second. But we don't leave people behind. We're here to make sure this city doesn't get left behind. But the people we're working with, they're just fine with leaving all of us behind if it's convenient. Look, I don't agree with every decision that's been made, but I am saying it's time to leave them behind. Their model doesn't work anymore. If we're smart, we cut it loose before it drags us down, before it kills us. You're talking treason. I'm talking common sense. Look around. There's nothing left to save. The JTF is trying to save a Manhattan that doesn't exist anymore. It is all about power now. Power and survival. They are done, but I am not. And you won't be either. Not if you work with me.
So now you know from the video that Keener is working with a nameless first wave agent. It also hints back at how, they went rogue with the Dark Zone incident. And the question was asked actually on stream, what happened in the Dark Zone? Well, when the pandemic happened, the immediate response from the government was to contain it. There were zones created for that, and these are the Dark Zones, and their decision was to build walls around these areas to try and keep everything inside. It obviously didn't work. So that's essentially what the Dark Zone was, and obviously Erin Keener has gone rogue because he believes the whole system is failing and that the government has failed them by leaving people behind, essentially. Now, they went on to talk about the Erin Keener interaction with April Callahar between East 47th and Madison. And in this particular recording, it shows that Keener kind of sees someone who has rose to the occasion and capable of taking care of herself. They then went on to talk about Vladimir Chinenko. So they kind of went on to talk about the main players. And he's a Russian virologist. He went to the Russian consulate to try and sort of either get out of there or wait it out. And he's a person of interest because he has the capabilities to create a vaccine or do something sinister. And that's why Keener and the LMB wanted to grab him, as well as yourself. And him and A Hearst, they were known to each other. They were part of the scientific community. I think there were parts where they confirmed that they may have done a project together, but there's no correlation in that Chinenko is not involved in the green poison, okay? A Hearst created that. And the first time we actually know about A Hearst is when Kandor talks about him. You're sent to A Hearst's apartment following that. And why? Why are you sent there? Well, it's that he's a person of interest as well. He's a likely candidate of someone who could have created such a thing. And it turns out there's actually a lot of research in his apartment. And that's where it starts to get a bit strange. And I'm going to insert a video as well of when you go into the apartment.
Yeah, we can kind of chat over this one because this is one of the coolest moments in Division 1 for me.
Yeah. This is how you know he's a crazy genius.
Yeah.
He has a lot of books and blackboards with scribbles on them.
John, I'd like to hope that these are scribbles that aren't going to teach people what to do to make a poison for reals, though.
Yeah, we may accidentally have done that.
Yeah, to be honest, our environment artists are so crazy with the amount of detail and attention to detail that they have.
Yes. That says Sigma. Yeah. Okay, you guys got that. All right. No, it's such a cool environment.
So it's at this point that you realise that A Hearst is essentially a crazy genius man. And what else do we know about him? Well, we know he's been airing radical ideas about humans and nature. That humans are not on a sustainable path with nature and that the planet is eventually going to fight back. Or it's going to die. And his idea of fixing this is actually wiping out part of humanity, which is probably the reason why he created the green poison. And that's essentially how the poison was created. That's essentially the story of it. Now, they went on to confirm that Fadeout is one of the only people we actually get to see in the Division 2. Candle is kind of alluded to in the Division 2. Everyone else, Rick Velassi, Paul Rhodes, all of that sort of stuff, we don't hear anything more about them in the Division 2. And then they inserted this video, and it's the last thing that you get to see in the Division after the Colonel Bliss's fight. It's the last scene, and it kind of sets the stage for the Division 2. So watch this.
Well, here I am, Erin Keener, the First Wave's prodigal son. Normally I'd do this face-to-face, but I'm not 100% sure which way you'll jump. You act one way when Ms. Lau is watching, and another way entirely when you're off the leash. That's an interesting contradiction. You see, I think that deep down, you get it. You know, the old rules, laws, governments, those things died on Black Friday. But the feral PMCs, the convicts, the ones smart enough and good enough to take what they need, they'll survive. Me? I'm gonna prosper. Oh, you could too, but you took an oath, right? You got a duty. Those are both ways of saying that your conscience is fucking you. You ask yourself, who has earned a right to tell you what to do? Do you know how many agents died to hold the Dark Zone just for the brass to give up and put a wall around it? You don't believe me? You should check the place out for yourself. But the people you're working for, they're irrelevant now. Amherst changed how the game is played, and I have got the vision to win. I got Chernenko, I got a DNA printer, and a very interesting recipe book. I'm gonna write my own rules. You should think about getting in on this thing. I'll be seeing you.
So as you can see, Keener has taken everything, and Amherst is dead. And that's it. That's the Division. And the concern is now that obviously Keener is going to go out into the world and do crazy stuff with it. So the Division 2 comes into it, right? 7 months have passed between the Division and the Division 2. And the reason why is because the Division network actually goes down in DC, and you have to go there to try and fix the Division network. And what's the key things? Well, the main priority to start with is to deal with factions and get the network back up, and then it comes down to tracking down the antivirals. And they did include this really, really good sort of top-down review of the Division 2 and kind of where we're at, essentially. And I want to include that here because this is really cool.
After the green poison outbreak, we worked tirelessly to stabilize the country. The Division was on the brink of collapse. Agents were called to D.C. to try and stave off a civil war. Deadly factions roamed the streets and vied for control of the nation's capital. Hyenas, opportunists who exploit the weak and vulnerable. Outcasts, green poison survivors seeking retribution from a society that abandoned them. And the true sons, mutineers and deserters guilty of war crimes. Alongside brave civilians, we fought to stabilize DC and took back the city. But we couldn't defeat the power of corruption. Military contractors known as Black Tusk invaded and tried to undo everything we had accomplished. We stood our ground, and with the odds stacked against us, we pushed them back. There are still dangers out there. It's up to us to remember what we are fighting for.
All right, so that was pretty much like a top-down review of the Division 2, but there's some things they don't talk about. President Ellis, what's his standing? Well, he's not a nice bloke, he's a douchebag, but at the point of playing through the game, you don't actually know that. He was actually taken by the hyenas as a hostage after his plane was crashed. He was the Speaker of the House. When you get the encryption key, you restore the network at the end of the Division 2. You see Fei Lao and her knee has been healed, and everyone's pretty happy. There's fireworks and all of that sort of stuff. And then the Black Tusk arrive. And this isn't the first time you see them. If you go and look through the found footage, you'll see stuff of them before. But it was actually the Black Tusk who took down the Division network in the first place. And the devs said this was deliberate. They wanted the Division 2 to be, direct missions, but also there to be the same investigation stuff we got from the Division. So, who are the Black Tusk? Well, they're a private military group, lots of resources and manpower. President Ellis was recruited to be by them to actually give them a way into the government. And, there are other people involved, but we don't really know who they are too much yet. We go to Tidal Basin, which is kind of their home place. You kill Wyvern, and you stop the missile launch, which was directed at the White House. If you don't actually stop the launch, it blows up the White House. So, quite important that you do that. And then we move on to episode 1, which is about taking out the Outcast leader, Emmeline Shaw. You also go to Camp White Oak, because you believe President Ellis is there. But at the end of it, he actually gets away. And it's also about retrieving the antivirals. You then move on to episode 2. What happens with this and why? While the Black Tusk want to get their hands on the stuff in the Pentagon and in the DARPA research lab, because there's a lot of cool stuff in there. There's actually a perfusion bioreactor in there that can help with mass producing the antivirals. So that's what you go, because you want to get this bioreactor, because it's very important that you have this so that you can mass produce these antivirals. And then that's where we're currently at until we just have the episode 3 trailer. So what do we find out in the episode 3 trailer? Well, the Black Tusk should not have their hands on Chinenko, and you absolutely need him for the antiviral project. And Black Tusk are not just in DC either, but Coney Island. And you can presume at this point that they're actually kind of like a national organization. Now, you've taken out Joe Ferro in the Division, so what's happened to the Cleaners? Why are they back? Well, they've had to adapt to the defeat from the first game. They found a new leader to unite them. They've rebuilt, they've reorganized, and they're back to obviously get some vengeance. And then they said, well, is there anything that we've missed from all of this stuff? Well, there are some unresolved threats, and this is pretty important, guys. What's happened to the LMB and the other organizations? Well, the Rikers kind of lost their drive. And the LMB, like the Black Tusk, well, they have a command structure in place. So once one person goes away, someone fills their boots. Now, they didn't say anything more than that, but the way they said it and the way they were talking about it was like the LMB have a door to come back, because they kept saying, well, we can't really talk about too much more. Hamish was saying, I can't talk too much more, I might lose my job. So I really think the LMB might make an appearance here in the Division 2 Episode 3. I really think they might make an appearance at the end. Not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure LMB are coming back. They've left the door open for them for a reason. So, yeah. That was it anyway, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this one. I'm sorry my lore knowledge isn't quite up to speed. I apologise. I'll try and do better. But I just wanted to basically recite everything they talked about in the stream. I do have a good understanding now exactly how we've got to where we are. And I'm looking forward to seeing where Episode 3 is going to take us. Thanks very much for watching. And until the next one, Epic out.